I've never seen a movie that felt like a negative experience. Not just not an experience, it took experience away. Like a lobotomy of film.
You are about to enter the courtroom of the Honorable Judge KennieJD. Does she have any movie critic experience? No. Does she have any authority? No. But they gave her a show anyways. The movies are bad. The cases are good. The rulings are final. This is in defense of...
Oh my God, hi. How are you? Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Defense of a More Better Production. I am your host, your judge, jury, KennieJD. And on this here podcast thingy-jiggy we do every week, except last week, I talk about movies that did poorly in the box office or got bad ratings and decide whether or not they deserve them. Because they gave me a gavel and my words are final. Ayo. So I missed last week. It's because I have depression. Just a generally very weird week last week. I also went to the doctor because I've had like these vague pains in my thumb. They said it's usually for people who just had babies because they're lifting up children. Don't have a kid, so I don't know what my excuse is. I genuinely think it's because I type too much and play video games with my wrist in a very awkward position. I also lay on it. Wait, that's probably it actually, more so. Because I lay like, while I sleep like this. You know, like when people do like little photography moments of newborn babies and they have them like this? That's me. Anyway, if you didn't see our last video though, we talked about From Justin to Kelly, Truly Terrible, the movie that no one wanted to be a part of, including the winners of American Idol who were forced to do this after the first season. It was truly all of the things I hate in film, including it being a musical. If you'd like to check out that video, that'll be linked, I'm sure, somewhere on channel, in the channel, on the channel. And this week, I've never seen a movie that felt like a negative experience. Not like it was a bad vibe, but like it was not just not an experience. It felt like it took experience away, if that makes sense. It felt like a lobotomy of film. Like it just took parts of brain matter away. This movie was terrible. Today we're talking about a film called In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale, 2007. I just looked it up in the grand scheme of movies that didn't do very well for whatever reason. Again, either because it bombed at the box office or got really bad ratings. And this movie came up. I knew nothing about it. I didn't really know what I should be walking into. What I ended up getting was this very peculiarly bad, kind of feudal fantasy type film, but with like the production and acting quality of something vaguely Mighty Morphing Power Rangers. Music choices were terrible. Everything was terrible. The acting was terrible. The dialogue was terrible. The storyline, if there is one, wasn't a fan. I'm probably spoiling what my verdict is, but a lot of times when movies kind of befuddle me in this way, I kind of think of them as an experience. Like I was saying before, like I'll tell people like it's just something you have to see. I genuinely don't think you should waste, you know, the short amount of time that we have on planet Earth. I don't think you should spend it on this. But with that said, I will be relying heavily on like pre-production notes. Shout outs to our production team here for In Defense Of, who did some beautiful research that I will go over and bestow upon you. Because otherwise I wouldn't know what to say. Because like I said, I felt like I lost memories from watching this movie. So yeah, watch it if you want to at your own discretion. If you want to forget the last 2 hours, then go for it. But other than that, we can sit here and I can talk vaguely about it from what I remember / what we already wrote in today's script. Okay. First of all, let's talk about some accolades. We always love to hear how movies outdo themselves in the world of suck. So the film was nominated for 5 Razzies. Again, since we've last met, I've yet to receive an email. Again, my email, always right there. My people, talk to your people, Razzies. Show of a lifetime. All right, but it was nominated for 5 Razzies: Worst Picture, Worst Screenplay, Worst Supporting Actor for Burt Reynolds, Worst Supporting Actress for Lily Sobieski. Every week. And Uwe Boll won the Razzie Award for Worst Director. So congratulations, Uwe. Did I say Ube? That's a vegetable. The movie's release date was January 11, 2008 in theaters, and started on like streaming, if you will, you know, like on demand. I'm assuming some type of DVD release, was April 15th, 2008. The movie is inspired by the Dungeon Siege video game. Most of Boll's movies are video game adaptations, and from what I hear, none of them are particularly very good. Boll has said there are 2 versions, or that there would be 2 versions upon the cinematic release. The second, a director's cut, was made for a DVD release and ran at 155 minutes. Which is wow, because one of my biggest gripes from this movie, outside of it being like a non-viewing experience, is that it feels so long, so dreadfully long. I remember having to take breaks in watching this movie. I'm like, oh, I'll come back to it. But I will also preface by saying, as a caveat, I'm not a fantasy girl. Like, I think I've said this on this, or I've said this in regards to like sci-fi, but let's just be honest, that bleeds into most supernatural things. I'm not a huge supernatural girl, generally speaking, unless there's like a shittily made crossover with romance a la Twilight. And Twilight's garbage, but you watch it because it's garbage. But as far as like dungeons and dragons and fairies and ghosts and all that stuff, I kind of feel like, and maybe this is just me, I'm much more in the vein of thinking that whole ass people that exist on this planet are terrifying. I love learning like terrible fun facts about like real life here right now human beings. And so when I watch movies, a lot of times I have this kind of supernatural nature. I'd say a good 80% of the time I'm like, oh, I'm bored. I'm bored. But this movie even more so, I think, than the average. I think even if you like fantasy movies, sci-fi movies, you know, medieval dungeon type shit, you'll be vastly disappointed in this viewing experience as well. But and I say this to say, the idea of adding, what is that, like an extra 35 minutes to this viewing experience, torturous. Oh my God. I can only imagine that this movie is somewhere in a group of things to make people watch for some type of intelligence torture or something. But this is kind of cool. During production, Uwe Boll sponsored a charity visit to the set. Guests got to see behind the scenes works, and proceeds were donated to a children's hospital. Apparently, Ray Liotta was very upset that so many people were able to see the film before it was done. He considered this an odd on-set irregularity. In future interviews, he would talk about how crazy Boll was for allowing so many spectators on set. They were sick children. Like, come on, man. And they got to see a shit movie. Relax. This wasn't Lord of the Rings. Granted, I've said how I don't like Lord of the Rings either, but neither here nor there. Script development took over a year, and in the end, Doug Taylor rewrote 80% of the script because the original story was considered too similar to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That was not planned. In our ongoing look into directors pushing actors and those that work on set too far, we talked a bit about that in Mother. While filming an outdoor fight scene, Burt Reynolds grew overheated in his armored costume. became unconscious, and fell from the platform on which the duel was being filmed. Reynolds claimed this was the only time in his career that he had ever missed a day of filming due to sickness or injury. That is not something you should be proud of, baby. I just hate the way that actors, also athletes, I find this a lot, happens when they just push themselves to an amount that it's deeply unhealthy and terrifying, but people kind of applaud it, like, oh, they just put themselves through the ringer and they're just so dedicated to the craft. Like, no, you're dying. Like, I don't. Apparently, Jason Statham filmed many of his action scenes while nursing an injured tendon in his foot, which makes him noticeably impaired while running. I guess I never noticed that. I guess I just assumed he's fighting and stuff, he would be kind of not easily running throughout the movie. So I guess it worked, but again, anyway, the movie was only able to gross a little under $3 million on its opening weekend, which means that it did not even crack the top 10 of films, which is impressive. It eventually ended up grossing about $10.3 million worldwide. But considering the budget was $60 million, which again, it definitely looked like a slightly higher budget episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, dude. Not even like the full, like, actual film, the original first film, which was a masterpiece, camp classic. Did it do well? Can we do that for an episode? I'll check that out later. But it's giving, like, after Sunday cartoons are over, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers realness, and you're telling me that this movie was $60 million? How much was the budget for Mighty Morphin Power? Every week, costumes, lines done, gymnastics, hitting it. We got the suit, we got the armor every week, and it cost y'all $60 million? What's Tommy up to? Well, he's probably like in his 50s now. Tommy, he's 48. I had the biggest crush on fucking Tommy from, yeah, Tommy Oliver. Yeah, I had the biggest crush on Tommy from, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get sidetracked. He still looks good. He still looks pretty good. Yeah, he still looks really good. You should keep the facial hair. Anyway, but it's giving Power Rangers realness, and y'all really didn't have to spend $60 million to do this. How much was an episode? I literally could have just looked that up. Anyway, it wasn't $60 million. So Uwe, apparently this is Uwe Boll's most expensive film production to date. And you know what's funny about that is that it's one of those movies that I've actually found to be somewhat difficult to find to watch. It's not on any streaming sites. The only place I could kind of find it in some way visible was actually YouTube, but the audio is atrocious. I can barely hear anything on it, so I had to turn my volume on my TV up to like 100 so that I could actually hear anything in the movie. Terrible. So I feel like they're trying to hide it from us too. But anyway, ratings. In the Name of the King got 4% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 22% from audience scores. That's higher than I would expect for audience as well. I would imagine that it would be around what everyone else was saying as far as critic reviews. This is actually very accurate. Hank Sarton for Time Out said, "Don't go for the campy laughs. There are none." And that's actually shockingly true. Usually when movies are this bad, there's something at least enjoyable in the experience of making fun of it. There's nothing. Again, it was a literal minus a movie. From Slant Magazine, only Uwe Boll would assume that the movie-going public craved a trashy Lord of the Rings ripoff starring Burt Reynolds and Matthew Leonard, and only he could then manage to make such a potentially righteous endeavor so humorless. Again, shock. He gave it 0.5 stars out of 4. Wow. Okay. Boston Globe, the director Uwe Boll remains committed to long, dull, mediocre action films. His tenacity is a virtue. Okay, the highest rating we have here of the people that have presented any out of 4 is James Berardinelli. There you go. From Real Views. If this isn't Boll's best effort to date, it's better than his usual output, which is okay. If he can continue to improve, his name may no longer be synonymous with a punchline. 2 out of 4. That's very gracious of you to believe that this is a real film. Okay. Synopsis. A war looms in an idyllic kingdom. A man named Farmer, who is a farmer, mind you. They named him Farmer, and he is a farmer. They also acknowledge this in film in the most cringy and just odd way possible, where his son is like, why do they call him Farmer, Mom? Sure. The farmer named Farmer is played by Jason Statham. And he begins a heroic quest to find his kidnapped wife and avenge their son, who was murdered by horrible warriors called Krugs. Meanwhile, villainous Galen, played by Ray Liotta, sends his evil army to overthrow the rightful king, Burt Reynolds, and steal the throne. I'm sitting here hesitating whether or not I want to give you the whole rundown, and I've decided no.
Want to help me fight?
No.
What? You're not.
I love you.
That is the film. That is the movie, what I just read to you. There's a lot of, again, this very like Mighty Morphin Power, like first season, like not even like after they got a little bit of a budget. It's first season Mighty Morphin Power Rangers meets Lord of the Rings, with like this vague storyline of revenge. So wasn't he in Hitman? Wasn't Jason Statham in Hitman? Jason Statham was not in Hitman. Okay, who played Hitman? They got somebody other than Jason Statham to play in Hitman? That's stupid. He would have fit really well for that. Anyway, the guy that plays Shaggy, isn't it? I know he plays other things, but that's what I think of when I see him. And he's very like Shaggy-esque in this movie. And it's just, it's everything to be comedy, because you can tell that somebody was trying to make a serious movie out of this, but it's just nothing. There's nothing to make fun of in a way that brings joy. It's just a deep sadness and apathy afterwards, if you feel anything at all. So if you want to watch the movie and put yourself through that, go ahead. If you want to read up on it, go ahead. I do not. Thank you. Love you. It would seem that though Bull had the money to pay for good talent and pay for perhaps better CGI, one would even imagine, it's so bad. Like, it looks all vague green screen confusion, but he ended up squandering it with plotted dialogue and boring storylines, and he crammed as many big-ish names that you recognize onto the screen as he could afford to do, and then just let that die by the wayside. No chemistry, no articulation, no good execution in any way. It's just deeply awkward. Almost. It's not funny enough to be this, but almost Neil Breenian. Almost just like a pet project. Yes, Lightning, you agree. Wild, ain't it? Apparently, according to people that are really into Lord of the Rings, there's also several scenes that were like plucked right out of Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, specifically like fighting scenes, just plucked right out. Very ghetto. I love that. That's hilarious. I say all that to say the obvious. If you didn't garner, guilty. This movie sucks ass. Take with that information what you want. If you want to waste 2 hours of your life on it, feel free to be my guest, but you shan't catch me watching this willfully ever again. Absolutely not. Fucked up. Anyway, but that's all for today's video though. If you've seen this movie, In the Name of the King, surely feel free to put that down in the comment section. I'm curious what your thoughts on it was. That's a lot of accents at the same time. It went British to Australian to New Zealand down below. Okay, anyway. Hi, it's good to be back. But yes, if you would like to like this video, feel free to like this video. Follow us here on More Butter. We upload videos several times a month. Often once or twice, sometimes 3 times a week. You can follow me if you want to see more of me. Wouldn't you want to? My skin's so nice. And I'm so pretty and funny. Like, oh my God. I'm on KennieJD. That's on YouTube. That's on Twitter. That's on Instagram. Actually, as of recording this, the day of, I actually just hit 80,000 people following me on Twitter. That's fucking embarrassing. Y'all don't need to hear all of my knee-jerk thoughts, but you do anyway because you like the chaos. So thank you for that. But yes, good to be back. Make sure to drink your water. Make sure to eat food. Make sure to sleep well and take time for yourself. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. Oh, wait. And don't forget to butter your popcorn. Oh, it's so good every time.